thank you. I value that. And for the rest of you, if you like to just take a moment to pause. If you like, you can close your eyes before we make a switch to the next topic. Just doing anything that you need to integrate or to welcome all the learning that you've had so far with Eva. Making any mental notes of things you want to track for yourself later. Maybe inviting yourself to center. You could do this by breathing, by movement, whatever works for you. And just mentally readying yourself for the next step, the next topic, which is openness to feedback. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes or settle down if you've been walking around. I love to see more faces. If you're willing to turn your cameras on, if not, that's perfectly okay as well. Thank you. Right. So thank you for being here. I'm quite excited. I love the energy of this room coming in. I'm touched that not many of you run away. And I hope you stay for a bit. There may be a little bit of nervousness around this session because I have received feedback about my usage of time, and it seems that I think time is more elastic than it actually is, so I end up going overtime. So I'm hoping I can stay within limits today and we can have a smooth transition. My tech support is Reena, who will also be offering a session in 3 or 4 hours, I think. And she has a request to please put an X in front of your name if you don't want to go into a breakout room. And before absolutely anything else, I just want to express my gratitude for being here and supporting this event. I am really grateful for this possibility to contribute in this way because the Pathways Matrix has been very, very nourishing, really deeply meaningful. Sometimes when we get on the certification path, for me, I had a lot of confusion about where I was, what I needed to do. And I found this tool to be very clarifying. And I'm so glad that there's a book about it. So thank you, Jim. And I love how this event has been co-created. So I'm just very generally touched. And I don't want to say all of what you heard before again, but I would like to mention that to me, the way this event is happening, the co-creation, the trust in each other, has been very much an embodiment of what I hope and long for CNBC to be. And CNBC, of course, is the Center for Nonviolent Communication, which is 2 years older than me. It was founded in 1984 by Marshall Rosenberg and its colleagues. I just learned it's 2 years older than me, so I've been very excited about that. And like any other organization, CNBC has been impacted by the pandemic. So if you can, and if you can joyfully do so, please do buy this book, because all proceeds, all profits go towards CNBC. And also, I think there's a way to become a monthly donor, which I believe is easier for people who don't live in the same region as me. But if you can and you have the capacity, please do. Because every bit, I think, really counts. And just a huge shout out to Jim for this kind of generosity towards how we do this together. Okay, so I'm ready to move into talking about feedback. I want to say that one of the reasons that this topic has been, I mean, one of the most important parts of the matrix for me was this particular topic, because I've had a little bit of trouble with receiving feedback. I don't like the word feedback. I noticed that there's still something in me that doesn't love hearing that, hey, let me come give you some feedback. I don't enjoy that. I get a little bit of nervousness around it. And yet, because of the difficulties I've had some thoughts about, some suggestions about what we can do to nurture our openness towards receiving feedback. So I'm going to share my screen. And there will be space to ask questions very, very shortly. This is the session. And this is just directly from the matrix. So I'm guessing all of you have some awareness of this, but I just want to go through it for anybody who's completely new. That there are 4 layers of engagement that we can have with each of the capacities listed in the matrix. And it moves from unskilled, where I have no knowledge of the skill and I'm unconsciously incompetent, towards being unconsciously competent. And I go through stages of awakening and capability and capacity building during this. I love the word capacity as much as I hate the word feedback. And the reason for this is when I hear the word capacity, I'm reminded that I can grow this capacity. And as I'm growing this capacity, I might go through these stages of starting with a general sort of receiving of feedback as something in the realm of right and wrong. Like when I get feedback, I've done something wrong. That nervousness inside me that says, oh my God, feedback, still comes from an echo of this place that says, when I'm getting feedback, I've done something wrong. And if I fix my behavior, I'll do something right. And then people will like me, which I enjoy. I move then towards at least being open to my reactivity and being aware of this reactivity in me. From this space, I move to a space of capacity or capability where I'm consciously competent. And that to me means I have to put some effort into remembering that feedback is information about needs. It's about information about the needs of the person giving it to me. And it's information also, the reactivity is information about my own needs. And then hopefully at some point, I will transition magically and seamlessly and hopefully with some poise and grace towards integrating the skill fully. Where I can receive feedback as information, just information to be considered, where I'm aware that I have choice in how I receive this and choice in what I do with it. And I know that I have needs in the situation and the other has needs in the situation. So I wanted to lay this out for you, just so you have a context of what we're looking at. And I want to invite you to take 2 to 3 minutes each. Let's take 3 to 4 minutes. And think about where in this matrix do you find yourself? If you were to self-assess where you are, with honesty and clarity and openness to just where you really find yourself, where would you place yourself? And if you're willing, I'd like to invite you to put that in the chat. So for example, I catch myself usually in the capable column, sometimes integrated, and sometimes awakening as well, because I kind of oscillate between both. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Jan. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Ching Ching. Yeah. Thank you, man. Awakening. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Kay. Juliana, Pallavi, Giovanna. Yes. Thank you, Ravatala. Thank you. I love that, Monique. Sometimes when I'm tired, I'm awakening. And for sure, the how resourced I am definitely impacts where I am in this matrix. And I'd like to share, as you're sharing, that one of the things that definitely impacts my capacity to receive feedback is whether I'm hungry or sleepy or both. Both is pretty much the worst combination. And one of the things, and I've noticed that there's some other things that get in the way of me being open to fully being ready to receive feedback. And that's usually when I'm fearing either a loss of connection, acceptance, belonging with the other person, or I'm fearing a loss of respect and dignity. I'm fearing how I'll be seen, what people might think of me, and what that means if they don't like me. What does that mean? I love the simplicity of this unawakened, unskilled space, because there's a button there. If I get it right, then I'm liked. And if I get it wrong, then I'm not liked. And it's easy. It's easy to digest. I love that because it brings me some sort of a sense of just a sense of clarity of how I can move towards a space where people like me or people accept me. And yet it comes sometimes at cost to myself. So I'm looking at what are the needs that I'm trying to meet when I'm being right or when I fit in, and how those sometimes get in the way of me being open to receiving feedback. So I want again for you to take a couple of moments, couple of minutes, and for yourself just checking when you have trouble receiving feedback. What is it about? Why do you struggle to receive feedback, or what gets in the way of being capable or being integrated? And again, I'd like to invite you to put it into the chat. So as an example, I fear losing connection and respect. So please take a minute or two to write this in the chat if you're willing. Yeah, thank you, Joanne. It's longing for acceptance and recognition. Fear of being imperfect. It's not data-based. Yes, like I'm hearing that it's difficult to connect with information that doesn't start at some sort of observational level. Unseen, rejected, the other person not being involved enough. And I guess that has to do with the quality of how it's spoken to you, Savitri. Vulnerability, and there's triggers connected to childhood memories. I definitely relate to that. Thank you, Craig. Yeah, it's the tiredness and can't overlook the body language and tone of the other, actually. Tiredness. Yes. So thank you for sharing and risking sharing this with each other. I relate very much with this fear around being imperfect or seen as imperfect. And sometimes maybe there's a little pressure I put on myself to be somehow perfect, somehow completely capable. And there's a little bit of space in there for me to have to maybe be gentler with myself, an invitation. So I want to talk about what what I do to receive feedback, what I can do to be more open to feedback as a practice. And before that, I'd like to share with you something I learned about feedback while working. I've been working on the field last year, and I realized while I was working on the field that feedback in the non-NVC world has very, very different implications. And yet in the NVC world, it has a very specific meaning. When we were examining how we learned, basically I was involved in some community building work. And when this community was speaking to us, we were learning. And at one point we sat down together and we thought, how are we learning? And I thought there were 4 layers in which I receive feedback. There are 4 forms of learning. And two of those are not relational and 2 of those are relational. So the non-relational ones I just want to mention because we do have one foot in the NVC world and one foot out. So you might hear a feedback that comes across that's in terms of, processual feedback that you get through inviting for, doing say like a form or a interview or a case study and stuff like that. Most social organizations, I believe, just do this. And then there are observational bits of feedback, which is where I take responsibility for what I'm learning by looking at changes in behavior or outcome or output of something. And these are not exactly in relationship with another person. These might have much more to do with processing, digesting, maybe assessing or evaluating in a non-NVC way. I want us to focus on these 2 types of feedback. So I'll say a bit about them. I realized we were learning through relational dialogue and conversation. When people told us about their met and unmet needs, about their pain, their frustration, their hurt, or their joy, their celebration. And this happened just in dialogue, in relationship. So there was space in each dialogue to learn a bit about the impact of our work or our individual and collective actions and how it landed for the other. And then there was something slightly different, which I do want to name because it was very, very important. This was what I like to call intuitive feedback, which is when I notice the discomfort or the resonance, any kind of greater intensity inside of me, and I receive that also as information about what's going on. So I'd like to give you an example of that. Example of that is that a while back, I was starting to, let's not even go very far back. Let's say a couple of days ago, I had this thought about, a couple of weeks back, somebody said that they would like to be in a meeting with me. They would like to meet me about something. And I have a story about myself, about being, perfect in some way. I want to be the perfect NVC trainer. I want to be the perfect receiver. I want to always be open. So I had a thought that, yeah, I should be able to listen to this person, even though some irritation, some discomfort was coming up. Now, if I let my thinking guide me, then I do something without taking into account that there was some discomfort in me. But the discomfort, I realized, is also feedback. The discomfort speaks to me about needs that are not met. The discomfort is telling me about what I need to watch out for. So when I listened to this discomfort, I realized I have several memories of this person not really being, of me leaving conversations feeling very drained after speaking to this person. And and the discomfort the uneasiness was about some fear of really losing energy. And my needs were for self-care, for rest, and for safety. So listening to that, I was able to say no rather than letting myself say yes at cost to myself. So I just want to share that these are possibly 4 ways that we can also receive feedback. And these 2, relational and intuitive, is what I identify as learning in relating. Either I'm learning in relationship with you or another person, or I'm learning in relationship with me. So I want to pause for a second and ask if there are any questions or any thoughts about these 4 pieces before we move on. Any clarifying questions, especially? Would you be willing to raise your electronic hand and ask them? And if not, that's also fine. Okay, so I'm going to move ahead and say essentially what I want to be aware of, and something about staying open to feedback as a thank you, Reena, you're putting it in the chat. Thank you. So how do I stay open to feedback even if it's difficult? I do it, at least for me, I do it by remembering that at each moment, every moment, each human being is, everything that each human being is doing, right? Every moment, each human being is doing the best we know at that moment to meet our needs. And that's true of me, and it's true of the other person. To me, to my mind, I would guess, and this is pure assessment, that we shut ourselves off from receiving feedback because we concern ourselves with questions of rightness and wrongness. Like, when I receive feedback, what did I do wrong or right? How do I fix it? And a key to shifting from that thinking is to check for needs. What are my needs, and what are the needs of the person who's offering me feedback? So this is all I have to say in terms of input, and I have a practice. So I'm wanting to ask you to think of a piece of feedback that you struggle to receive, that you've had some troubles with hearing, or had trouble staying, like difficulty staying open to. And I'm going to put this in the chat because I've typed it up, Reena. It's just let me put the question in the practice in the chat. Essentially, what I would like us to do is to think of this bit of feedback that was difficult to receive, and find 3 points of empathy, 2 for me and 1 for the other. One piece of empathy is for me, for my past actions. What was I feeling then, and what were the needs I was trying to meet at the time? Then I want to check for how do I feel right now receiving this feedback, and what am I needing now? And then once I'm sort of resourced, I want to be sure that I do this after I've slept and eaten, of course. But in the absence of that, just once I've connected with myself, part 3 is an empathic guess for the feedback giver. What could they be feeling? What needs may they be trying to meet? And then I want to step back and hold all 3 of these pieces as information. I have information about the needs I was trying to meet. I have information about the needs that show up now. And I have information about needs that for the giver were unmet in whatever I did or did not do. So if I hold this as information, what would I like to choose to do? And maybe I would have liked to emphasize the word choose. What is my choice now with all this information? So it's a pretty simple, straightforward practice. And I would like you to do this before we go ahead, maybe let's just check. Are there any questions about this? Do you know what you're going to do? You'll be in rooms of 3. And I actually think we can do a 20-minute practice, So maybe 21 minutes for people to settle in, 1 minute for people to settle in, 20 minutes for people to practice. And I hope that you can do, 6 to 7 minutes each and do all 3 of these layers. And when you come back, we'll debrief and check. If you're going to be in a room if you've got an X on your name, we won't put you in a breakout room. But I still would like you to stay with the practice if you have space, and do it for yourself. Especially if, to really look at something that was difficult to receive and do these 3 steps for yourself. Okay, are there any questions, any clarifications? When I don't hear anything back, I take it as feedback that I've been explicitly clear. And I've done very well on my clarity. Okay, all right. I see some nodding, thank you. All right, off you go for 21 minutes. Sorry, please go ahead, Reena.
Yes, so I have created breakout rooms and there have been some changes since. So if you find yourself alone in a room, you can start a reflection. The steps are in chat. You have access to chat. So start the reflection and stay there. I can see that you're alone, and then I'll send someone to you to join you.
Yeah, give us
Secondly,
1 or 2 minutes to do that.
yeah, there are many rooms. Secondly, those who have put an X or an equal to or sent me a message that they do not want to be in a breakout room, I'm transferring all of you to room number 1, where again you can be quiet and but just be in that room for 20 minutes and take care of yourselves. So yeah, that's it. So I will open the rooms, and at some point we will let you know, I guess at every 5 minutes, Mansi, we'll send a broadcast
Send you
message.
reminders. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
6 minutes or so.
yeah.
Reenak,
So
are
right
they
now,
timed room?
yes, yes.
Okay. And I also want to let you know that I think there is an ask for help button. So if you need any support, please ask for help and I'll come back. I'll come join.
Yeah. And there are some of you who are alone in your room, so just hold on. We'll find you a partner to practice. Thank you so much. I'm opening the rooms now.
Thank you, Reenak.
Have fun practicing. Yeah. Hi, Meera. I'm guessing you want to go to a room?
Yes, I would like to go to a room, please.
Yeah, I have assigned.
Okay, thank you.
Mansi, could you go to room 20? Monica needs some help. Shall I send you, Mansi? Is that okay? Okay, you are on mute, but I've sent you. Yeah. Okay.
Reena, I was on mute. She was alone in the room, so I moved her. I want to ask you, shall I? There's this in room 9. Hossam is alone. Shall we move them to room 8?
Yeah, please go ahead. Please go ahead. I'm
I'll do
also
it.
checking. So, yeah, there are
Okay.
3 people in one room, and I can't see where. In room 11, there are 3.
Yeah, 3
They
is fine.
might have started. Okay.
3 is
Then
fine.
Hussam. You've already shifted. Yeah.
I've
Reena,
moved
this
some.
is Sapna. I was in 1. May I please be moved to a room,
Okay.
to a practice room?
Mm.
You can put her in
Shall we
room.
make it?
Yeah, rooms of 3. So
Yeah.
Sapna could go to room 12 or 13.
Yeah. Okay. Sent you, Sapna. Room 12. Yay, we have everyone in
Yeah, wow,
rooms.
that was amazing. Well done.
Do you think you'll remember to put the recording on again? Shall I pause it?
Yeah.
I will also. When I say it to somebody, then I remember. But
I'll pause it. That's fine. People will be back in 35 seconds anyways. I see Meera. Hi, Meera. All right. Okay, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. I'm seeing more faces, and so I realized there's more familiar faces here today than I thought there were. That's very reassuring. Yeah, I'd love to hear how this was for you. How was this practice for you? What do you notice? And if any questions came up, we have about, let's say, 10 minutes to debrief and then close. Yeah, for this session. Thank you, Joanna. It was calming. And it'd be sweet to hear a few voices actually at this point. I've been hearing my own voice for an hour and I'd love to hear somebody else's voice. Juliana.
Yeah, so thank you for the exercise, Mansi. And I realized that, okay, getting in touch with my needs was very easy. Getting in touch with the needs of the person who was giving feedback was really tough for me because of the way the feedback was coming so loud, and I was really struggling to connect. So I was so grateful for my partner. I asked him, Greg, to try and, just reflect, go in there and try and guess the needs. And he did that. And I found my heart opening up to the person who was giving feedback, which I would rather avoid that person, in future.
Right.
But after guess what might, and I needed help for that too.
Yeah.
I was I felt myself freeing up and it was beautiful. Thank you so much. So my action step would really be I am feeling free and able to relate with that person now.
Wow.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. And wow, that sounds like a beautiful gift, Greg. Thank you. And I love I want to draw your awareness as I hear that. What comes up for me is when I'm really struggling with the tone of the other person, I may be, and it's keeping me from being able to hear them, then I'm still in that second step of what is coming up for me when I receive this feedback, what's alive now. So when I hear a loud, aggressive tone or whatever it is, I feel maybe resistance or irritation or fear or anger, and I want to stay with that. What is that about? Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Thank you, Anand.
Is there anyone else?
I'm aware that this is a pattern of behavior, Mansi.
Sure.
It happens for any loud voice, that I kind of tend to get blocked, kind of a freeze reaction. So having become aware that this is a pattern and probably it has, roots in childhood or whatever, but at least now I do something that I choose to, with that awareness, I can do something different. Just being aware that, this is how I do. Yeah. That's where I'm working with myself on this. I haven't yet got there, but
and I really value what you share about the support that your partner brought you, because we don't have to do this alone. We can always ask for help and be witnessed in what we are, holding, how we learn.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And I would love to hear somebody else. Like, would you be willing to share what?
Mansi, may I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Mansi, what if the other person is giving feedback, let's say to assert their authority or to, fulfill their need of being in the spotlight kind of thing,
right.
And you sense unfairness in that.
Yeah.
How does one tackle that?
How does one tackle that? I mean, so I'm right in this session. We're looking just at receiving that feedback and knowing that we can choose how we respond to it. So I want to be clear that I haven't spoken at all about tackling or speaking to an engagement. But in that space of receiving, while the intensity of what you describe is higher, like it's a more difficult situation. If someone is speaking in a way that I can't fully trust their intentions, I don't fully know whether what they say is what they mean. I don't know whether why they say it is, fully visible to me. I still want to stay with what comes up for me. And I still want to choose consciously how I respond to that. So if I know that somebody is saying something and if my intuitive feedback is that there is something here that's not fully, I can't fully trust this, I want to go to the needs, guess at what needs they might be meeting by trying to stay in the spotlight, if that's indeed what they're doing. And with all that information, make a choice.
Got it. Okay.
It's the
Thank you.
same
That's
process,
helpful.
but yeah, I mean, thank you for asking. It gives me the opportunity to say that the process is always simple, but in the practice, it gets complex and intense, and but it doesn't change. The process doesn't change.
Okay.
I see Veera's hand up. Thank you for asking, Veera.
Hi, hello. Nice to be here, Manasi.
Yeah.
People here. So I was just reflecting upon these questions being asked, and I had a situation this morning wherein I had to interact with someone, and we got triggered with some miscommunication. And
Sure.
when I think what I've noticed was that probably we'll have to take a time to calm down and reconnect, talk and reconcile, maybe, reconnect with them. Second could be like, when both people are unmet needs and they seems to operate with unmet needs, it becomes very challenging to operate in this typical ideal, situation. So it looks like it's a superficial or a interactive or transactional approach, but deep down is that unmet needs, and any attempt leads to a conflict. So I just wanted to share this.
Sure. Thank you for sharing. And I'd love to hear from maybe one more person before we move to closure about in doing the practice, if something showed up for you or a question or I don't know, just a reflection. Wendy.
Hello, Manasi. With my buddy, I just felt such an overwhelming sense of joy and gratitude for the practice itself, for the capacity to think about feedback in such a different way. So even now I could cry. It's just so overwhelmingly joyful to have the practices. So I felt that very alive in that moment. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Wow, I feel warm. All right, I think that brings us to a point of closure where we have about 6 minutes. We have 6 minutes left. That's amazing. I'm patting myself on the back for getting through this in a timely manner. Yay. This is not something that happens all the time. Okay, so I'd just love to maybe take, since we have a bit of time, maybe we could just pause together again before we move to closure. And I want to invite you to close your eyes for 4 deep conscious breaths together. And with each breath, just noticing how you feel now. What's going on for you at the end of this segment of this event. And if you can think of one thing that you're taking away from this, one thing you'd like to keep in mind at the end of this session, letting that surface. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes. Let's take 2 minutes to write down, how do I feel now? And if anything, what am I taking away in the chat? So as an example, thank you, Emma. Thank you, Joanna. And I see some takeaways earlier as well. So thank you for those. Thank you, Greg. Ulva, Kevin. Thank you, Christine. Okay, Mira. Thank you, Wendy. Okay. Thank you, Pallavi. So it's 2 minutes to transition. And I just want to say thank you so much for this. Thank you for receiving me in this, learning with me and sharing your learnings. I've really enjoyed this session. I'd like to share that coming up next is Vinita, who is there. And can you wave a little so we know it's you? And she's going to be talking about cultivating vitality. So please stick around and enjoy. And also wanting to thank you so much, Reena, for your support, and mention that your session is coming up in about 3 hours on living interdependently. And as a reminder, all of you will get, anybody who's registered will get access to all 28 sessions. And if you've come here without registering, that's okay. Reena is going to put this link in the chat so you can still register. And another reminder to please support CNVC and Jim, and well, CNVC through Jim. I don't know, support us. I don't know. Essentially, please give us feedback for this session. And as a reminder, you can buy these books. All proceeds go towards CNVC, which is still holding the impact of the pandemic and would benefit from your financial support. And if you have capacity and willingness, you can also sign up to donate to CNVC on a monthly basis. And that's it from me. Thank you so much for receiving this. And over to you, Vinita.
Thank you so much, Manasi.